Good morning. This morning is going to be a bit of a different practice where we're going to focus in on some restoration and some breathing and perhaps some longer holds. We'll just see how this practice begins to unfold. So there's a few props that you need. So a blanket would be helpful, a block, a strap, a bolster, a sandbag, or a bag of rice. And then if you don't have like bolsters, then just two pillows would be helpful. Okay, so longer holds, easier breath, cozied up. So this blanket is the length of it, to set ourselves up, to give you a sense of it, is about an arm's, it's about that big, right? So to kind of give a sense for your own body size, yeah? And we're going to start with it about, so you can kind of get a feel of the size. And in yoga, we call this like an accordion fold or a Z or a Z fold, depending on your country. But the idea is that we fold it up and provide a slightly narrower stance. And I've done this before in a previous video, so you may have seen this before if you are new to yoga. But the idea is that you lie it along your back like this. So there's enough, it's wide enough that it supports most of your torso, but it's narrow enough that it doesn't, so your shoulders can come off of it a little bit, okay? And so your bum is going to rest on it, and your head's going to rest on it. Now I've also got a bolster here as well, and I also have a strap and a block. So I'm going to show you two things that you can play with, and we're just going to have a little rest and have a sandbag close by. All right, so you can set yourself up onto this. So your legs are over the bolster. Let me scooch back just a bit because that wall's in the way, like something like that. Okay, if you don't want to have your legs over the bolster, then what you could do, or if you don't have a bolster, is you take the block and the strap and place it between your legs. Now in a future video, I'll talk a little bit about knees together like this and why I'm not a huge fan of it. I'll just plant a seed for that for another time. That will keep you watching, right? So we're going to set this up like so. Right, so I've got my legs strapped with a block like that. So they can provide quite a bit of support as you're lying back. Yeah. So you could do something like that. So choose where you want your legs to be, whether it's to be with a strap and a block to provide that support to your legs, or if you want those removed and instead having, I'm just going to move this back a little bit, having the blanket under you and having the bolsters under your legs. I'm going to choose bolsters. And I'm going to have my sandbag close by. And I'm putting the bolster up quite close to my pelvis so that my legs coming out of my hip sockets are supported. Yeah. And so just make sure that you are comfy and easy here. And that's ultimately what we're aiming for, is just to have some comfort so that you can settle, right? And then just feel yourself breathing. Sometimes I find, I'm just going to sit up a little bit while you set yourself up. Sometimes I find that restorative or easeful practices like this can be overlooked by a lot of people. And yet they are some of the elixirs that we have to really restore. I sometimes find that people kind of harbor a belief that we should be able to do our day and go to sleep and recuperate and get back to the day and be ready to go. And I guess on some level we should. But that's not the reality, right? Whether it's an unrestful sleep or whether there was a lot of load during the day or whether there's a lot of emotional load that you're working through, whether it's specifically your emotion or we have a world currently right now that there's a lot of emotion, and it can be sometimes difficult to process some of that stuff that's external to us, but we're feeling anyway. So these moments of being able to sit back and find a place of comfort, a little nest, can be really an effective way to allow some of that almost unarticulatable feelings inside, but we just know that they're there. It can be a really lovely way to do that. And even the stuff that we know is there and that we can articulate, this can be a really nice way to settle and just let our whole system down-regulate or relax or rest, or just press the pause button to allow for us to metabolize the things that are moving through. So don't underestimate or even understate the value and significance of doing apparently nothing. Yeah. So I'm also going to bring a sandbag over. You don't have to use this at all. This is truly a selfish choice here, the sandbag, that I hope that if you do have one, you'll enjoy. I love a sandbag. I love the weight of a sandbag. And so that's, of course, a total personal revelation there. And if it doesn't work for you, if you don't share the love, then don't use it. Yeah, just because I like it doesn't mean you need to. And I just want you to breathe. So if you don't want it, just take it off and just easy breathing. Easy breathing. And so I'm not going to be cueing a whole lot through this. I won't be speaking a lot. So if you think my sound has gone off, it hasn't. I've stopped talking. So just touch into your breathing and feel your inhale and your exhale, and notice, just notice. And what's interesting is it's Friday morning. We're coming up to about 5:30 in the morning here at Mountain Time. And I remember thinking how it used to be strange to do something so quiet like this first thing in the morning. But it can be a really, really amazing way to start your day. We tend to think about doing something more active in the morning. Getting out for a walk or doing a sun salutation to wake up. And sometimes the greatest ways to wake up are to rest and to breathe and just to sit or lay down, yeah? And take a moment here and just notice what you feel in your body and your breath. Where you feel things open and moving. Where things might feel a bit dense. Or maybe you don't feel things, or maybe there's some numbness, whether it's a spiritual kind of numbness or whether it's an actual physical numbness. Notice where you feel parts of your body and where you don't. You don't need to make sense of it with your brain. Just feel. Just allow yourself to feel what you've got this morning, where things are at. What's your barometer reading? Okay. And then let the sandbag go if you've got that. We're going to slowly come off of this position. And then roll on over. And then move that blanket away. Okay. All right. So then where we're going to go next is we're going to go into what often is called gateway. I like to call it figure four with a twist. Both are make sense to people. So it's going to be that we're on our backs. I'm going to do this in a couple of orientations for you. But we've got to have a bolster or your pillows handy. So if you've got your pillow, you can have the pillow up like so. But the bolster is the same idea. So you're going to take your ankle onto your knee. And remember the idea of your pelvis being quiet. The leg bone is that articulating joint. And then have the bolster close by because you're going to move over and rotate to so I've got my left leg. So I'm rotating towards the right, towards you, the camera. Make sure those hip flexors stay very quiet. And then slide up the bolster to wherever you can go with your hip flexors quiet. Yeah. So just notice how far you go and then notice at what point those hip flexors want to kick in. So for some of you, it's going to be down through here or even down to the floor. Others of you, it's going to be more up in this area. But you also want to keep your shoulder on the ground, on the opposite, like this left shoulder. If your left leg is up, you want the left shoulder down. So just find the area. And even though you could go all the way down to the ground, like I can, I actually prefer this morning, I'm just going to stay right here and just let my legs settle into the bolster. So the bolster is supporting the whole lower leg as much as I can, yeah? And it's just to allow my whole upper body is at ease. I'm not trying to hold myself down. So that the range you go really is not important. But I want to make sure, since my left leg is up, my right leg is down, I don't want that right foot to slide to the midline. I just want to now sit and just be in this position, making sure, you got to make sure there's no back strain, even if it's normal. Jaws at ease, breathing is easy. And just breathe. See what you feel in your pelvic floor. Notice what's going on in your rib cage. Really, really easy breath. And if you need to adjust and make the movement a bit smaller, then go ahead and do that. It's all good. Coming back to your breath, coming back to your body, notice the sensations, noticing your inhale and your exhale. And then let's bring ourselves back. And then keep the ankle on the knee. Move the bolster or the pillows over to the other side. And we're going to twist to the other side. So again, make sure that you're not sliding your pelvis to do the movement, that you're just rotating over and having the bolster meet you. Again, you don't have to go into some big movement. You can just be where you are. You don't have to feel a stretch sensation. The sensation doesn't actually mean that you're doing anything right or anything wrong. It's just a sensation. So it doesn't really provide data on what you were doing or how you were doing it. And pay attention to any changes or shifts of sensation in your body. That becomes interesting. Notice areas of ease. And then come back to the breath. Relax through your toes, feeling the space between your toes. Feeling your ribs and your diaphragm, perhaps, and your breath. You might even feel individual ribs. Good. All right, one more breath and let's come back up. And when you come back up, really think about coming up through your abdomen so your hip flexors don't have to compensate. Allow your abdomen to bring your pelvis up. Good. And then let's go to the other side. Leave the bolster where it is. Opposite ankle comes on up. Pelvis is quiet. Now we can take the twist and the pelvis will lift, perhaps if you go far enough, and let the bolster support you. I think what's really important that I've been sharing with a lot of clients this week has been increases of range of motion and increases of strength do not correlate to decreases of pain. Let me say that again. Increases of range of motion and increases of strength do not correlate to decreases of pain. So it's not about the quantity of gain that you're making. So just because you can go further does not make it better, especially in the world of pain reduction and eradication. What does make a difference is how you're doing the movement. And I'd even say more subtly, what is also important is what you're thinking about when you're doing the movement. But that kind of blends into the how. So we're looking at quality of movement and asking yourself is this a nourishing movement? Okay, let's use the abdomen to pull yourself back up. We're going to come to the other side. Or to use another word, is it not nourishing? Is it almost toxic of a movement, yeah? Or a stimulus? It's not just movement, it's also breathing, it's stillness practices. Let's bring ourselves into the movement, yeah? So you can get yourself into a position, but a position is a noun. The movement is the verb. So how did you move from point A to point B? Yeah? Be aware of that trajectory of the movement. That is what makes a difference in what happens with your pain levels. But the tricky bit is you've got to be aware, yeah? You've got to pay attention. So watch if your brain kind of goes up and says, all right, now I'm in the position. It's kind of like when you drive from your car, in your car from one point to the next point, and it's like, how did I actually get there? It's the same idea. How did you actually get to where you were? So if you aren't really sure, bring yourself back up, notice where you're at, now start to move, pay attention to your pelvis and to your ribs and to your abdomen and to your shoulders, your hip flexors. What's actually controlling your movement as you come into it? So many people with pain, what you are so good at, and I do mean this in truthfully, what you really are good at is you're great at compensating because you've got to get your life done, right? So you have found so many ways to get something done. You've found so many workarounds, and they've really served you to get life done. And you're noticing that your pain's not going down. So while you're on your mat, and only while you're on your mat, I want you to really think about your actual movement and how can you reduce those workarounds. Don't worry about the rest of your life. Live your life. You've got to live your life. Do your life. But while you're here on the mat, pay attention. Alrighty. Okay, good. All right. Ankle comes off the knee. Perfect. And then let's move that bolster away for a sec. And I want you just to feel and notice what is going on in your body. Now we can bring that bolster back, or the pillows back. We're going to take that under our legs, so we're not straightening the legs out. We're going to move into a Baddha Konasana. So also we can think of it as butterfly. So Baddha Konasana if the feet come together, butterfly if the feet stay apart, and you're just going to take the legs into rotation and have the bolster support you. Yeah. So you can have the feet together if you'd like or not, but let the bolster support. There shouldn't be anything up around your pelvis, like pain or strain. So if you need to add an extra layer of height, then do that. It's not about coming into the position. It's the movement into the position. And the level of ease that you have when you're here. Because this level of ease is what helps relax and settle, down-regulate the nervous system. Allow the healing to happen. So in this position, I want to ask you, could you be 5 to 15% more comfortable? And then if you could, can you add something to enable that to happen? Easy breathing. Easy breathing. And then bring those legs back up. Let's move that bolster away. Okay. So now we're going to move into a heart bed. And depending on your props, we'll see where you get to, okay? I'm going to show you a couple versions of this. So one is you can have a bolster. And you can have a block under the bolster. And you see how this is angled? So then what happens, and I'm going to show you this with pillows too. So I said a few ways, right? So this is the first way. And then I roll back and I'm here. Okay, so that's one way. You can also do something a little bit different than that. And you can use, depending on how your back feels, if you've got your blanket, you can put a blanket in a position like this. So then it's also an angled, but the blanket is about a hand's width. You can also do something similar with pillows. Right, and so that you see how there's this tieredness to it. So in the tieredness, I'm going to angle it out more this way. So the tieredness comes back like this, right? So same idea, but the tieredness, this pillow rests at the bottom of my rib cage. This blanket rests at my bottom of my shoulder blades. Yeah, like that. Okay. So whatever your props are, you choose the one that makes the most sense, yeah? And one of these is not better than the other. It really is what you've got in terms of prop and what makes sense. So I'm going to actually move away from the pillows. I'm going to use the block. And then I'm also going to use the strap around my legs. And again, you could have other props. If you have more blocks, you can put the block between your legs along with the strap. Okay. And then just rest. Yeah. And again, just easy breathing. Sometimes the bolster in this position and orientation can be too high. You can see how my arms are coming out of my shoulder, and there's an extension through that. Like the arm is moving towards the floor, my shoulder staying here. So the tissue from my chest down to my hand needs to release, and you might not have that ability. So let me just pop off here. So if you have a blanket or a pillow, then you can rest the arm up here. So do you see how the angle of this arm is now different, right? You can even do it like so. You can do it like so. This all shortens up this line in a good way, right? Because if the tissue is limited in some way, we might not know exactly where that limitation is, but if it's too much here because the arm is dropping to the floor so much more relative to where the shoulder is, then just bring the floor up to meet that arm, like in the shoulder. And then from here, if that's still too much, then you can take the hand and rest it on the ribs. Do the same thing on both sides though. So if you feel the issue on one side, don't just bolster up the one side. Do it on both sides so that your nervous system, your brain is like, okay, this is what needs to happen. Because even though it feels like the issue is on this one side, the issue is never just on the one side, right? We might not feel where the other stuff is going on because it's under our awareness. But we want to make a bilateral communication. It's better overall. Yeah? Okay. And then just breathe. Easy breathing. I want to mention one last thing about your arms is this is a great example of you might be able to take the arms to the floor and you might be fine. Or you might feel a little thing on the inside of your elbow or a little thing in your pinky finger or something in the palm of your hand that's like, not really a big deal. I don't really know what that is. It's more like a little whisper, maybe. And those are the signals that we get to start to pay attention to if we really, really, really want to move forward in our recovery. Those are the whispers to pay attention to. And that's when if you can just raise those arms up and take that strain out. It's a great example of you having the capacity and range to be able to do it, but not the capability currently to do it, right? Because there's some strain there. So my hope with these classes that I'm teaching and all the other offerings that I have is that I support you in building the capability so that you can express your capacity, so that you can express the truth of who you are through your body and through your movement and through your being. So I'm going to slowly move up and out of this position. You can stay right where you are. Today is a Friday, which means that in our family, it's cinnamon bun day. And so we've got cinnamon buns that I made last night and that we brought out of the fridge this morning, and they're getting ready to be put into the oven. So that is where I'll be heading off in a moment. So the cinnamon buns are calling for me. And for you, rest, rest, and rest. All right? So with that, you have a really lovely Friday. Or if you are tuning in before bed, have a great sleep. We will see you tomorrow morning. Take good care.